For decades, we've had this simple promise. Strong encryption keeps our secrets safe. But what if that promise has an expiration date? And what if the clock on that date just started ticking a whole lot faster? We're talking about a ticking time bomb buried deep inside our digital world. And today, we're going to find out why it's set to go off much, much sooner than anyone expected.
Okay, so let me start with a pretty wild idea. Think about that confidential email you sent in 2019, that secure file transfer, that archived trade secret. What if I told you it's already been compromised? The encryption was state-of-the-art back then. So how on earth is that possible? Well, the answer lies in a strategy that turns time itself into a weapon.
And that strategy is called Harvest Now, Decrypt Later. What adversaries are doing is literally vacuuming up vast amounts of our encrypted data right now. They can't read it yet, of course, but they're storing it. They're building these massive data vaults and just waiting for the one key that can unlock it all, a powerful quantum computer. This right here, this is the fuse on our quantum time bomb.
Now, for the longest time, this whole threat felt, kind of distant, right? Almost theoretical. The engineering wall between us and a code-breaking quantum computer just seemed impossibly high. This was the era of what we called the million-qubit problem. The idea itself isn't new. Way back in 1994, a mathematician named Peter Shor figured out that a quantum computer could, in theory, absolutely shatter the public key encryption we use for everything from banking to secure messaging. For 30 years, this has basically been the ghost story of the security world, something to worry about, way off in the distant future.
And here's the reason why it felt so far off. To run Shor's powerful algorithm, experts believed you need a machine with millions of these things called qubits, the basic building blocks of a quantum computer. Building a stable machine at that scale was seen as this monumental challenge, something that was decades away, if it was even possible at all.
The huge problem was really in the architecture. Older designs used these things called superconducting qubits, and they were incredibly inefficient. Think of them like a rigid circuit board, where the qubits are literally soldered into place. They can only talk to their immediate neighbors, which creates a huge mess when it comes to error correction, a process you absolutely need to keep the calculation stable. The dream was to get to something more like a choreographed dance floor. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what happened next.
And then, very recently, everything changed. And I mean everything. This wasn't some tiny step forward. No, this was an architectural earthquake that just completely redrew the entire map of quantum computing.
So what caused this earthquake? Well, it was really two key innovations happening at once. First, this new architecture using neutral atoms. Picture this. Instead of being fixed, the qubits are individual atoms held in place by laser beams, and you can physically move them around to interact with any other atom. That rigid circuit board just became a dance floor. Second, this new flexibility unlocked a massive breakthrough in error correction, something called quantum LDPC codes. You can think of these as a super efficient way to check the qubits work and fix errors on the fly, which drastically cut down the number of extra qubits you needed just to keep the system running.
Okay, so what did this brilliant new combo of hardware and software do to the numbers? It completely collapsed them. The number of qubits needed to break modern encryption dropped from millions all the way down to as few as 10,000 to 26,000. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second.
I mean, just look at this chart. This isn't a small improvement, right? This is a massive leap. We're talking 2 orders of magnitude here. The engineering wall we thought was miles high suddenly became a hurdle. Suddenly, the whole problem changed. It wasn't about physics anymore. It became an engineering race.
Okay, so let's bring this all back to that Harvest Now, Decrypt Later thread. Remember that quantum time bomb we talked about at the beginning? Well, someone just hit the fast forward button. Big time.
And that brings us to a really important term you're going to hear a lot about, Q-Day. This is the moment it all gets real. Q-Day is the day a cryptographically relevant quantum computer, a CRQC for short, is finally switched on. It's the day all those massive vaults of harvested data can finally be cracked open. And for any system that isn't prepared, it's pretty much game over.
And get this, the timeline for Q-Day has been squeezed like crazy. So all through the 2020s, adversaries have been hoarding data. Then, the big breakthrough happened, and in response, big players like Google and Cloudflare yanked their internal deadlines way forward to just 2029. All of a sudden, that 2035 deadline the US government set, it doesn't look so safe anymore. Actually, it looks kind of terrifyingly far off.
And this is where the whole mindset has to shift. There's this quote from cryptographer Filippo Valsorda that just nails it. The bet isn't, are you 100% sure this thing will exist by 2030? No. The real bet, the one you have to make if you're responsible for security is, are you 100% sure it won't? And given what's at stake, that's a bet very few people are willing to make anymore.
Okay, so the bomb is real. The clock is ticking fast. But listen, this isn't a story about panic. It's about a massive, global, coordinated race to defuse that bomb before it ever gets a chance to explode.
Yeah, the world isn't just sitting back and watching this happen. There's a huge transition underway to move our entire digital infrastructure to new cryptographic standards. We call it post-quantum cryptography, or PQC, and these are new encryption methods built from the ground up to be tough enough to resist not just today's computers, but tomorrow's quantum computers too.
And believe me, this isn't just some theory on a whiteboard. The NSA has already put out its official playbook, called CNSA 2.0, for protecting our national security systems. It tells everyone to move to specific PQC algorithms with these cool names, like Crystal's Kyber and Crystal's Delidium. These are based on really complex math problems that we believe are incredibly hard for even a quantum computer to solve. This is the official toolkit for defusing the bomb.
So why all the rush? Well, there's actually a pretty simple formula for this, called Moskow's theorem, that every company and government agency should be looking at right now. Okay, first you've got X. That's how long it's going to take you to switch over to PQC. Let's be real, that's probably 5 to 10 years. Then there's Y, how long your data needs to stay secret. For government or corporate secrets, that could be 20 years, 50 years, who knows. Finally, Z is your best guess for when Q-Day arrives. Let's be conservative and say 8 years from now. Now here's the kicker. If X plus Y is bigger than Z, you're already late. That old data is officially at risk.
Look, at the end of the day, this breakthrough completely changed the game. Building a code-breaking quantum computer is no longer a battle against the laws of physics. It's an engineering race. And if there's one thing we know about engineering races, it's that they move way, way faster than anyone predicts. So the real question, the one we all have to ask ourselves is, will we be ready when the clock runs out?